So Amit is going to speak today on quantum integration of science and spirituality. And with that, I turn it over to you, Amit. Welcome.
Thank you, Richard. Hello, everyone. It is my pleasure to talk in this company of very highly erudite experts. I want to make a case for quantum physics, of course. The illustrious Dalai Lama has said no model of reality is possible without taking account of quantum physics, and there got to be a reason for making such a grandiose declaration. What are these reasons? Few facts about quantum physics that everyone should know. After all, quantum physics is the latest paradigm in physics. If you consider the materialist paradigm, it is the final physics. There is no question in anybody's mind that quantum physics is the final physics for the material world. Now, of course, the question is, does quantum physics apply to the mental, to consciousness? And this question has been fundamentally easy to answer from quantum physics, but one has to go slightly outside of quantum physics, and this is quantum measurement problem. But again, look at what quantum physics is saying. This is the first thing that you have to know, which is that objects are not concrete objects. Objects start as ideas, waves of possibility for consciousness to choose from. How do we know that it is consciousness that chooses? Very simple. Alan Aspect via experiment showed, as Einstein, Podolsky, and Rosen predicted a long time ago, there is a special relationship in correlated quantum objects. How do you correlate to quantum objects? Let them interact, come close and interact. When correlated quantum objects interact, they become one. They don't need any signals to communicate anymore. This phenomenon is called non-locality. What Aspect did with his team is to verify that such communication without signals really happens between quantum objects if they are correlated. No doubt can be raised about this data. And this data also, surprisingly to some people, has been confirmed between correlated human beings. But I'll come to that later. Okay, what is the second fact? Second fact is that the quantum physics shows us, again, without any doubt, that the world of objects, world of any definition, remain in potentiality. Because this unity that we just proved, it is also for the potential domain of potentiality, where the possibility waves reside. And this is the way the world is, the world of possibility, domain of potentiality. Until an observation is made. This is where quantum measurement theory comes in. Until an observer comes in the picture. The observer effect is part and parcel of what quantum physics is. Without an observer's experience, there is no manifest world. So cosmology, we cannot even talk about cosmology without bringing consciousness in it, because we have to experience it. Of course, people immediately wonder, okay, cosmos, Big Bang, all that happens 13.7 billion years ago. And how is that possible? There could not have been any conscious people around at that time. But this is one of the surprises of quantum physics. There is a phenomenon called delayed choice. We can choose later, but things that happened before did not really happen. They were on a limbo of potentiality, and they collapsed going backward in time. That's how the universe came about. So these basic questions of cosmology, quantum physics addresses very easily. It's not a problem. The point is that the world happens in our experience, in the observer's experience. Otherwise, the world is just potentiality. And in that potentiality, it's easy to theorize that we not only have material possibilities for consciousness to choose from, but also possibilities for all our experience, namely vital feeling, meaning, thinking, intuiting archetypes and human values, not just sensing of material objects. So 4 types of experiences happen because there are 4 different worlds of potentiality within consciousness, which is the ground of all being. When we collapse, consciousness manifests with a self-identity in the brain because of brain's special property, which we call tangled hierarchy. But that's detail. We have all these experiences. What takes us towards experiencing the cosmos in a way that we can call it, we are cosmic beings. Because one of the problems of, one of the reasons that materialist science has made such inroads is that it has opened us to the cosmos in a way that we could not have done without these material instruments. We can look at the observable universe and at least look at them. Can we consciously participate in this visible universe? Can we? This is the question of cosmology that eventually quantum science can answer, and already some answers are emerging. So I'll take you to there, but let me develop a little further. We evolve. We evolved from very primitive beginnings, and these primitive beginnings were not fully reconciled with the purpose of the universe, namely take us to meaningful exploration of the cosmos. We are so busy surviving that much distortion happened in the way that reality was initially manifested. But with human beings, eventually we corrected much of that. We had finally a meaning processor in the game who could give meaning to what is happening around us in the world. So cosmology for the first time could be conceived by a living being. It began with a single cell, but that characteristic of making a worldview beyond our experiences, what is the meaning of our experiences, was unclear, completely unclear. In fact, distorted until the human being appeared in the picture. But the human being also initially were only looking at the physical world, giving meaning to the physical world, missing the boat. And then it started giving meaning to vital energies of feelings. And then it started giving meaning to meaning itself, rational mind. And this is the era that we are still on. What is next? Next is the crucial thing. It starts giving meaning to our archetypal experiences that we intuit. It is not a common experience right now, and especially following up the archetypal intuition into a search for reality, which requires creativity, is done only by a few people. For example, the assembly of speakers here. But outside of that, people are interested, but they don't know how. But now we have the dynamics of creativity sorted out in quantum science of experiences. So perhaps everybody can join the creative adventure. What happens when you join the creative adventure? Initially, our attention is all taken up by the outside because we can see a lot that we can understand conceptually, although we cannot participate in it, we cannot see how we can participate. For example, how we can communicate even with an extraterrestrial being. Physics does not allow such communication. We cannot build rocket ships to go out there. We have to somehow find a consciousness connection. But this consciousness connection that I call non-locality is, however, signal-less, and there is no space limit for it. We can communicate via it anywhere, a person anywhere in the universe, except of course the clutch is, how do I correlate with this person? Is there a way where such correlation can happen? Now here, when we correlate human beings and find that they too can do non-local communication, the mystery of correlation is making intention. That's it. You intend to be correlated and you are correlated. It's an amazing thing. Of course, you make sure that the intention goes on by meditating on the intention, because ordinarily intention is momentary, correlation is momentary, and as soon as you have collapsed your consciousness again to look at something or think something, that correlation is broken. So during the experiment, the trick is for people not only to intend, but meditate on the intention so that they hold the intention the entire time. And if they do, then it turns out that brain waves transfer from one brain to the other, proving beyond any reasonable doubt that consciousness conscious communication is also non-local. In this way, we now have very definite data that non-locality applies to human beings, quantum science applies to human beings, as well as to the material world. What is the mystery of material world? The macroscopic plane, where Newtonian laws should hold, at least approximately. That mystery is solved by realizing that we have subtle bodies, this mental, vital body of feelings, mental body of meanings, archetypal, the intuitive body of archetypes. These bodies are quantum bodies. We only can explore them internally, experience them internally. That's a surefire quantum science. This quantum body connects consciousness with the macro world, which is decoherent, but the decoherence is not the case when our brain measures the mind or measures the vital energies. It becomes a measurement apparatus, and measurement apparatus is one exception where the decoherence goes away. It's a quantum measurement apparatus become induced way, in an induction way, a quantum object momentarily for the purpose of measurement. In the same way, brain or our organs in the heart chakra or organs in the navel chakra, they all can become instruments of quantum measurement, and in this way, they get self-reference. They also acquire a self. And when we combine the self into a holistic existence, combine the brain, the heart, the navel chakra, which gives us basic survival motif. When we combine all this, heart, of course, is for love, and the brain is for thinking, eventually for intuitive thinking. When we integrate all this, we develop an intelligence which can be called supramental intelligence, a term borrowed from Sri Aurobindo. Now, what happens then? Then we are moving beyond this era of mental. We are moving beyond this era of mental is a fantastic future that is ahead of us. We are not there yet, but we will be. When we are there, what happens? How to get there? That is a challenge. And we cannot, of course, predict when and how that will happen. But this much we can predict. That's how science works. That since we have all three other phases completed, we will have an intuitive phase in the future. So what happens in that intuitive phase? And this is where the big possibility opens up that we can call human being graduating to be a cosmic being. In other words, the cosmology that physicists and cosmologists study, that cosmology that we only can see from far but cannot participate in, becomes really participatory. But how? Non-locality is a concept. How do we use it with a being in an outer planet? This is the big question. Now you have to go back to the vital era of human development. So what happened in that era? Many feminist anthropologists, they call this era the era of golden age, because there were amazing equality of men and women in that era. There were amazing connectivity among human beings in that era, so much connectivity that we developed this collective unconscious that is proven now beyond any reasonable doubt. It's a Jungian concept. We don't not only have personal unconscious of personal memories, but we also have a collective unconscious of collective memories of humanity. But how did that happen? Humanity lived in tribes, small tribes, between which there were very little communication. So how did that happen? That very little communication was enough because that produced intention. Very little communication is all it takes, because that produces an intention to share, and that is enough because all the people of a community is already one. People of another community is already one. All we need is a little bit of production of intention. Now, in the case of the human beings, this intention production has a mechanism. This mechanism is called reincarnation. Now, reincarnation is a very strange phenomenon for the Westerners, especially to believe, but the data is now enormously in support, and there is a theory given by quantum science which completely has been verified by the data. And the theory makes sense, makes common sense. That's the amazing thing. Our memory has two components. One component is what we memorize, facts, and the other component is we learn to use it, our ability to use it. That's called learning. I'm a learner person because I can use my learning to achieve goals that without the learning I could not achieve. This learning ability is not stored in our brain. It is stored as non-local memory in the domain of potentiality. That, in principle, is shareable, again by intention. So in this way, what I'm saying is that people, because they reincarnate, and if they reincarnate with suitable motivations and generalization that becomes possible when you open that far, we have already come this far. This is a lot to talk about in this conference, the way that you are talking about, than a conference 30 years ago, which I attended plenty of. Conferences of cosmology where only physics, astronomy, cosmology, these things were discussed as if there is nothing but the physical universe. And today we are talking about consciousness of the physical universe. Of course, the physical universe is conscious to us. That is beyond any reasonable doubt. Quantum physics has proven that. I've already shared that information with you. But now we come to the realization that once we become intuitive, we can become connected again. Not connected with everybody else in humanity, which of course are difficult to even conceive, given the state of the mind of most human beings today. 85% live in a very base level human condition, full of negative emotions, racism, sexism, and all that stuff. I don't dare to conceive how that can be changed anytime soon. But I do dare to conceive that a fraction of that, maybe as large as 10%, is already tuned to the cosmic tune, cosmic purpose of communicating, becoming a cosmic citizen, communicating with extraterrestrials. And then how do you do it? That's the question. As I said, when the intuitive mind, selectively, of course, because only a portion of humanity right now are ready to connect. And if we connect, then we become not only connected with us, but connected with a dedicated number of people throughout the universe. There is no limit of how far we can go. Signal-less communication can connect us all instantly with just that intention and that ability that we have gained. We now are easily connected to consciousness and connected to each other. That's the entrance requirement to this cosmic club. Our collective unconscious, humanity's collective unconscious, is a subset of a much bigger unconscious of the universe, the whole universe. Of course, it is built in subsets. So there probably is a subset of galactic consciousness, subset of nearby galaxies and all that. A subset of planets close to the Earth, this portion of the galaxy and all that. So you have to go through all that. But humanity has plenty of time, even on this planet, to achieve that. And then what? Then there is a problem that exists in the theory of creativity that I have developed some time ago on the basis of quantum science. By the way, quantum science gives explanation to all our experiences, including creativity. The crucial thing in our exploration of this cosmic connection. What I found that there is a creativity which deals with situational problems, and those are easily solved, especially when we liberate ourselves from our personal unconscious and find access to the collective unconscious. But then what? How do you access beyond the collective unconscious? This is a problem that is very difficult to solve. One way of solving it is, of course, is to say that, well, somehow a quantum leap happens anyway. because it is a fact that it does happen. We do get insights, completely new something, new context, new archetypal context. We do get those insights, fundamental creativity. But still, it's not entirely satisfactory because the probabilities are very low. And even if you consider that a creative person really has to be very dogged in his search, I have been and you have been, we know how hard it is to come across a creative insight. It takes years and years of investigation sometimes. Even when you know the process, as we know now. But then maybe there is an easy answer. This is where I'll go into speculation. Rest of what I have said is all verified science. The speculation is that maybe, and this was a speculation that started with Sri Aurobindo, the great spiritual seer as well as a scientist. He postulated that it buys you, this supramental intelligence buys you membership of a greater unconscious. Not in these words, I'm using my own words, but he implied. So let's take that idea seriously. If we can then become members of this cosmic unconscious, and therefore that's where fundamental creativity comes from. Of course, for Einstein, it's just an idea that he is getting. He is not trying to transform himself to an intuitive being. For us, the challenge is even greater because we not only want to get the idea, but we also want to live the idea. That's the whole idea. Living it, I become a cosmic citizen by connecting to the cosmic club, connecting to the collective unconscious, connecting to this great membership of extraterrestrial beings who are similarly in their intuitive mind. This is speculation, to be sure, but speculation based on very solid foundation. We know unconscious, we have known it since Freud. We know collective unconscious, we have known it since Jung. And then I have proposed quantum unconscious for entirely new potentiality. And of course, the question is how to access it. Quantum unconscious, if it has a cosmic unconscious in the way that I'm proposing, then it gives us access through fundamental creativity. And this access is the basic access that is in our capacity to build. The entire requirement is to develop supramental intelligence. Now again, spiritual traditions, you know, they gave us the cosmology, the basic ontology of the cosmology. Consciousness is the ground of all beings, which is now being accepted by everyone contributing to this conference. That is my understanding. Okay, but they were not perfect. They made mistakes. Their mistake was they thought the rest of the world, manifest world, is illusion. If you take away that dogma and combine science, integrate science and spirituality, this is why my talk is about integration of science and spirituality. We need that integration. Integration means that no, the manifest world has to be taken seriously. This is the purpose. Otherwise, what's the purpose of a world in potentiality? That has never happened in anybody's experience. So if the purpose is manifest all the aspects of consciousness, namely these archetypes, which are aspects of consciousness, and then define the not the nihilistic aspect of the archetypes, but the positive aspect of the archetype. Oneness can be thought of as oneness as everything. Oneness can also thought of as wholeness of the consciousness that you experience things with, without any conflict, wholeness. So if we approach wholeness and transform accordingly, that then becomes the vehicle for integrating science and spirituality in such a way that we become cosmic citizens at the level when we develop the supramental intelligence, including the archetype of wholeness. And that is the entrance requirement for joining this cosmic club. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Amit.